What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got another shop day. We're going to be working on our 2018 Skidoo 850. But yeah, starting off this video, as you guys can probably tell, we have much better lighting in the shop. If you guys have been following along what we've been doing this spring, or I guess this fall, this spring. This spring we broke it, so we've been fixing the spring's carnage. But we got new gearing put into this thing, new chain, new gears. So we went down to a 146 gear setup. We also swapped over for the Silberturbo race exhaust on the sled. And then we did a bunch of heat shielding. And I went through, I redid a bunch of the lines with this high temp heat, like heat loom. So I'm gonna pull the hood off, show you guys the finished intake modifications we did and whatnot. We'll go over that, and then we got to get into pulling the tank off today. If you guys watched any of the last season's videos, coming to the end after Christina Lake trips, sled had a bog at full throttle, full load, high RPM, it would dip down. I'm pretty sure fuel pump wasn't able to keep up with the demand, because on flat ground with no load it would run perfect, but get it up on any kind of an incline, so the fuel pump would have to work more and put that extreme load to her. It couldn't handle it, so it would break up in the top end. So we got an upgraded fuel pump. Let's get the sled mostly tore down. And yeah, we show you guys kind of what I've been doing. If you guys have been following along, you will know we did a little bit of intake modifications. You would have seen that in the end of last video, but we'll just go over that again here in this video. So originally, the factory intake actually is right here where it connects to the hood. We modified that, of course. So this is a Silberturbo. It's a Silber's kit. All their piping, silicone tubing, all that jazz is from them. Now, I did a bunch of research comparing Force or Silber's to the Force turbos and Boondocker turbos. Well, they run their intake pipe so it kind of comes up the way you see here, and then it runs into the hood. So we'll hop over to our hood here. We'll just kind of get you guys in a better light. So, as you can see, we did a bunch of gold heat wrap because we got rid of course, the big factory air box that's under here, or air intake box, whatever you guys want to call that. But it also had like a fiber heat shield, so just to mitigate heat, we've gone ahead, we've done this gold tape. Now, we'll show you guys more about that in a bit. But I just took the factory intake horn, cut it off, and then glued it into the factory air intake box. So you can see that we still have the factory valve. This is in case it gets blocked, so it's able to actually pull air. But yeah, so it's just hot glued, hot glue and some silicone. It's very solid. And of course, I've used hot glue before, as you can tell here. Plus, on the actual intake box, we had hot glue. Now, we ended up doing that because I've had issues with this sensor before coming out, and it actually burnt a hole through those. So, I know hot glue has a very low melting point, but it does work in this scenario. And with it being a snowmobile, you know, it sees so many cold outside temperatures anyhow. So I'm very comfortable running it myself. This is all that's left of the hood. So our intake we shortened by about 2.5 feet. And then whatever all that weighed, which is about 4 pounds. So I know the Skidoo lightweight hood is lighter than this even more. But I feel like for not having to spend any more money, this right here, what we did, very, very cheap, effective way. And then of course we had to cut this because it doesn't have a mount anymore. So it's just riveted into the plastics with just a couple small rivets. I trimmed it up as much as possible. And I will go back in and clean this up a little bit more, just because we don't need all the extras. So here you can see our modified pipe. So I just went ahead, I took a 2-inch piece of aluminum pipe, made a joiner. This is cut in half, and then of course we just did this fiberglass heat wrap on our intake pipe. And the whole point of that, because it goes right by the pipe and pretty much touches there, it'll keep from melting the silicone, plus it'll keep our air intake temps down so we don't have heat, you know, warming up this pipe, warming up the air before it goes into the turbo. Rewrapped all the sensors, all the harness, and then redid my vents and my coolant overflow, plus our coolant return from the turbo up to the bottle. And just using this high heat wrap. So that stuff's super cheap. Picked it up on Amazon. I'll leave the links below for all the stuff that I got here. The gold heat wrap, that came with our high temp fiberglass wrap, or volcano wrap, exhaust wrap, whatever you want to call it. This is just from Amazon. It was super cheap. I know you can buy this from Performance World, but this roll right here is about $100. I paid about $20 for this one. So it's pretty much the same product, just a lot cheaper. This stuff here, it's a high temp woven split loom. It's very high quality, very cheap, but very high quality. And then I got it in a couple different sizes, but I've been super impressed with that. I did do a little bit of torture test with a torch, and it held up really, really well. So that's some of the stuff we used. Of course, the gold heat wrap. Gold is a much better reflector / absorber of heat. Lots of performance people use gold instead of tin. I'm not sure why. There's a bunch of science behind it. You can find a lot more of that on YouTube, and there's tons of pages that do the comparison testing. But yeah, we redid a bunch of those hoses, like I said. Redid the vent for the chain case, just using nice silicone hose. And then yeah, just rewrapped a bunch of stuff, relocated some of it. And then we also wrapped our heat guard here in this gold tape. Kind of not a big thing, but I think it looks better. Honestly, that's kind of the only reason I did that. So yeah, let's go ahead. We gotta pull this. We gotta pull a bunch of crap off of here and get this fuel tank out so we can get to our filter. Alright, so just showing what I did in the time lapse. Of course, going ahead, rewrapping our fuel hoses. So this is a return line. And then we did our feed line. And then, of course, we replaced our new filter. Here's a part number from the filter. Now, the old one, it's actually a Wix brand filter. Part number 33095. So I'm sure you could buy a Wix one, but I just went with the BRP one. So there's your part number from BRP. That's 513034127. So this was actually a reasonable price, right around that $20 mark. So yeah, I was gonna use some of these little crimp clamps, but I don't actually have the right size, sadly, so I just ended up using hose clamps for now. You know, I'm going to change this filter fairly constantly now. The old one, I don't know if it was plugged or not, but good idea to change these out every year. On these Skidoos, depending on who you talk to, some people say there's 2, there's 3 filters. From what I know, this sled has 2 filters. This inline filter, and then there's also a filter inside the tank for the fuel pump. So we're not there yet, but I'm going to finish up with the fuel filter, finish up wrapping. Of course, here's that wrap that we used, just that woven wrap compared to this. So that's just your standard plastic split loom. You can see how much less bulky this nice woven wrap is compared to the split loom. So that can just go right in the trash. We'll put this back on, and then I trimmed this up just because the fuel tank didn't actually sit on the foam at the back. So just trying to clean it up. Plus we went ahead, we eliminated the rear tail light. I am on my 4th tail light, I believe. And of course, when we did the expert rear, when we cut the tunnel, I thought that tail light would last. Apparently not. So we're just eliminating the tail light now. I don't really see a purpose of having it if I'm going to just keep breaking it. And you don't see a bumper for a reason. You'll understand sooner than later in an upcoming video. But yeah, went ahead, dielectric greased, and just taped up all these connections. Make sure they don't have water getting into them. While we're here, we're going to check all our hoses and just double check all the torque. It's just, we got a lot of room now, so whatever I can get done while it's open, we'll try and do. Okay, so let's get into doing our fuel pump now. So this tank, it is full of fuel. So hopefully it'll be down enough that we'll be able to do this. We'll find out here really short. So it's got this little snap ring in here. These are really easy to work with. You'll want 2 screwdrivers. And then just have some patience. But if you push with one, or even with both, you get it to pop up. And then you should be able to just use your fingers. Just pull that out. Now I imagine there's just an O-ring. And this should just pop right out. Alright, so this is going to be somewhat hard to show, but I'll try my best for you guys. So pull this out. Now try your best not to contaminate your fuel pump at all. But we have to empty all that fuel. Try our best here. Now you cannot actually buy a replacement pump for these from Skidoo. For whatever reason, they just sell this complete assembly. So whatever you do, don't lay a match at this point. And don't knock over your tank that's open. So by the looks of it, there's just some little clips here. Now being very gentle, because you don't want to break this. Otherwise, $700 for this part right here. This fuel pump I got from Chemoso. This was about 60 bucks. Now this is an upgraded fuel pump. There is your part number. It's supposed to have higher flow, higher output at a little bit more pressure. That's what they list anyways, so. This is going to be actually very difficult. Alright, that's disgusting. Check this out. Look at all that crud. It's like rust. So, that is kind of weird. Now, being super gentle with this so we don't break anything, we'll try and pop this off. There is your old fuel pump. Nothing special. Looking at size comparison, pretty close to the same size, but of course inside is where all the magic happens. Now the only thing that I see here is the connector is different. So this one comes with a different set of wires, and just having a look here, the connector spade terminals are slightly different, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of changing, and we'll just modify that so it'll take our new plug, and away we go. Okay, here we go. So we got this new fuel pump installed, changed out our connector, just soldered it into place, and then heat shrunk over the wires. If you're very gentle, you can pull this little red tab out, which allows you to push in on the back side here, pop this connector out, and pull the wires completely. That's what I did, just so I wasn't soldering around the fuel pump. But yeah, I got it all put together. It comes with a new hose. This is a very stiff hose, hard to get on, but it is doable. Just be patient. I use a little bit of heat, so just warm water to warm this up, and then I was able to put it in. Probably if you let it soak in warm water and then cleaned it, put it on, it would make your life really easy. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and zip tie this just so it holds our fuel pump into place. The only thing I don't like about this Chemo off the bat is just the size of this fuel filter. You can see that's what Skidoo comes with. So quite a big fuel filter compared to this. So I'm not a huge fan of this. I might actually order the Skidoo one. They're fairly inexpensive, and I just hadn't got that. I wanted to see the difference between, of course, the stock and this one. But one thing I don't like is how much crud that this actually held. So we'll see. I might just run this one, see how it does, and then order a Skidoo one and pull this apart, change it out halfway through the season. So go ahead, everything's cleaned up. I'll put this cover back together, and yeah. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I greased up the seat there, and then we greased up the O-ring. Now we're just going to reuse our O-ring. It looked good, and I didn't like the one that they left us in the kit. So now we'll just drop this all in. Try to be very gentle. I don't know why. I feel like they're hitting on something. Oh. There we go. Get our O-ring in place. And just push down. Seat it in by hand. Take your snap ring. Now there is a little mark right here, raised plastic, so that's where you have to start from. And you should just be able to use your fingers, clip that into place. There you go. So now what we're gonna do, we'll just kind of lay it over. We'll check for leaks around there, and then we'll put this back into place. So before we put the tank back into place, we're actually gonna fire it up. I've got the tank back into place, just temporarily, but we've got all our lines hooked up. We got our fuel pump hooked up. So yeah, we're gonna fire up the sled. All you need is to have your key plugged in. That's the only thing that's connected there. But we'll fire it up. It should fire up in a few pulls. And then, yeah, we'll check it over. Of course, it has no fuel, so it'll take a couple tries. So that really didn't take much to get it fired up, but we'll just show you guys here. As you can kind of see, kind of not. It's kind of hard to get the camera in there, but we got no leaks around the fuel pump. So everything's good there. And just kind of looking over the sled here, you can see our filter and our lines. We got no drips. Get your fingers in there. Everything's all nice and dry. So it didn't really take much to fire it up. 3 pulls and fired right up. So I'm pretty happy with that. It did also before have a little bit of a weird idle, which it seemed way better today. I'm pretty sure this new fuel filter and the fuel pump worked. So we won't know until we get it under load at high RPM, but I'm pretty sure our problem is going to be fixed. Now, don't be scared to do this. Pulling apart the housing and switching out the pump, just take your time. It's not hard. This maybe took me about 3 hours. And yeah, we still have stuff to put back together, but I'm gonna go through, just kind of check over everything I can. As I'm putting it together, we'll put you guys on time lapse. And then once we're all back together, we'll show you. Got the hood on. I just want to show you guys this part. I don't think I have yet, but this is how I connect my intake now. So I actually go in through the top. Now since we don't have the factory intake box, this is all open. So you can kind of see the pipe there. You can see our heat wrapped intake, and then I just have a intake, or the factory intake cone, and then this little I don't know what you call it, but it's more or less just a clamp system with a dam that goes over top, and then just a hose clamp, but you can access it this way really easy. Now, one thing you got to do is, if you just put in your glove box, of course this is still a little open. So what I ended up going ahead and doing is we heat wrap this. But it's a piece of Lexan, just riveted to the bottom of the glove box. So now when you go to put it in, I just get it so the wires for the headlights are on the sides, on both sides, and then just press down. And as you can see, it's soft enough that it kind of just bends in there. But there you go. And then of course I do have my license plate just mounted on the inside of this now. Just because we're going to be doing a little bit there, and I used to keep it in my tunnel bag, but this was some of the changing I'm doing. Also, we have our little tool bag we're going to keep in here for now. And then one other thing I want to show you guys is our clutch cover. So I bought this saw a couple of years ago, but it's just been riding around in my tunnel bag, kind of hard to get at. So this year I've actually gone ahead and secured it to my clutch cover. Just using a piece of pull cord at the top, it just loops around here and then holds it up, and then it's just got a zip tie that's been heat shrunk to give it a little more stiffness. So it works out really well. You can put it on and off with that in place. And I know lots of people hate putting stuff on the clutch cover. I don't mind it. Yes, I've had stuff go through my clutches before, but these tools I feel will never come out. And this is so big that for it to get down into the clutch, it's not going to damage anything. I'll know long before. So I'll go ahead, button this thing all up, and we'll run it up. Now this is just going to be a live time, kind of give you guys a little bit of sound and just a little bit of idea of what we got going on. Let this thing warm up, and then we'll do some good burps. Alright, super excited to end off this video. So we got the sled back together. Things are running mint, as you guys could tell. I went ahead, I did a little bit of venting. Just added some holes. This one is in a good spot. It's right there, so it won't actually get much for air in there. I'll zoom out, sorry about that. But, you know, we had to go ahead. We pulled all the foam off the inside of this panel. Both panels actually. You can see we heat taped that one. But I had this oil cap come loose last year. It wasn't loose, but it wasn't actually seated. Just soaked everything full of oil. Something I'm gonna look at doing. You guys know we updated, like this is a 2019 clutch upgrade, or clutch vent upgrade that we did on this thing. I would love to find some kind of a vent that goes right here. And the only reason I say that is because if you look at where the intake is, if we have something on this side, it'll just give more cold air to the clutch. With the way that system works, I'm not so concerned about getting the heat out of the clutch side. I haven't had belt issues with this sled, so I'm not too worried. But with the amount of boost that we'll be running now, which sits about 8 pounds, Yeah, we were having peaks to 11 pounds, but that's just the way it is for now. This thing's gonna make a lot more heat. So trying to get the heat out. As you can see, we also having more air coming up through the top. I went ahead and Swiss cheesed kind of our light bezel. Because we're gonna have a lot of heat being able to rise through there. Now we can use our windshield to keep the snow out and keep the air, or like keep the snow from going in the holes, but allow the heat to actually rise out through the hood. So that's a good thing to do. We might do a little bit more. I might see if I can get any vents or something for on top here. Just help even more. And then coming over to our turbo side. Factory, you have this little exhaust outlet here. I went ahead and drilled a bunch more holes in that. And then with the side panel, I figured, well, they're not worried about snow getting in on this side. It'll just melt anyways. So we added a bunch of holes and then added a bunch more up here just to try and help get the heat out. I might try and find a vent that can go here and then also do a vent same as the clutch side that sits on this part of the side panel. If you guys know a really good vents, a comment down below. I'll be looking, trying to find some that are really nice. I don't just like the generic circles, even though we did some circles, but try and find something that looks decent, kind of match the wrap. But yeah, we're gonna end off this video here. So stay tuned. We're gonna have a wicked season with this sled. We still have 1 or 2 videos coming before we actually hit the snow. So stay tuned to the channel, and we have a bunch more content on everything coming. So thanks for watching.